everybody, a bitch is back again. It has been so long since I last filmed a video. As soon as I got my cancer diagnosis, I pretty much stopped filming. I did not expect my video to reach so many people. There were so many questions that were in the comment section that I think would be very important and helpful to address for other people who are going through something similar. I remember when I first got my diagnosis, the first thing I did was go to YouTube, and I couldn't find anything. And that was really daunting for me, that I couldn't create an online community or look to someone who was experiencing the same thing and could maybe offer me some advice or just offer me like a helping hand or just to offer some sort of support and be an inspiration to me. So for me, it was really important to address these comments in like an actual video versus just replying to them and risking that someone else who has the same question or would really like that information misses it. So as I answer these questions, I'm going to be doing my makeup. I'm not going anywhere because COVID-19, but I thought it would be fun. So here we go. All right, so the first question that I have here is someone asked if I had a lot of nausea and vomiting. So of my symptoms that I experienced, I believe like I went through them in the video, but nausea and vomiting was not one of them. However, that definitely can be a symptom for some people. For me, that is not what happened. I was bloated a lot. Another symptom that a lot of people have is feeling full very quickly and loss of appetite. So yeah, no nausea and vomiting. So another question that came up was, does cancer run in your family? That was actually one of the first questions that my doctor had for me. And no, cancer doesn't run in my family. A lot of women in my family, especially my extended family, have had issues getting pregnant with PCOS, also endometriosis, but no one had cancer to my knowledge. That was really difficult for my oncologist trying to figure out, how did this happen? Were there any like risks, like, any signs that this may have may happen to me? And no one in my immediate family has had cancer or extended family. I mean, they've had cancer, but not ovarian cancer. So that was definitely very interesting. So the next question is a big one. They first said, I hope this isn't too invasive of a question, which honestly, it almost seems like it would be, but I think this is something that's very important that a lot of people don't talk about. The question is, have you considered freezing eggs from your remaining ovary in the event that someday you want to have biological children? To answer it very quickly, I have always wanted children. I've always wanted to be a mother. That is something that I always knew that I wanted, even if I ended up not getting married or even if I couldn't have my own biological children, I would be adopting. So I love kids to death, and that's always something that I've wanted. And going into surgery, I did not know if I was going to be able to keep both ovaries or not. Luckily, I was able to. And because the cancer that I had was grade 3, which is very aggressive and it's the most likely to come back, that was a conversation that I actually did have with my oncologist. I asked her, was this something that I need to be worried about? Is this something that I should consider? If the cancer comes back, what do we do? She basically told me that there is no right or wrong answer. I could if I wanted to, or I didn't have to. She told me that she doesn't think that the cancer is going to come back, but if it ends up coming back, it can be very stressful to try to get your eggs frozen right away after you get that diagnosis, because the last thing you want to do is wait to start treatment if the cancer comes back. So to me, it was very important that if I decide to freeze my eggs, I do it before the cancer comes back. So I did not freeze my eggs, but that's definitely something that I'm still thinking about. I did have a consultation with a fertility doctor. I didn't know if I was going to have issues getting pregnant, especially with one ovary. That's something that I was concerned about. But after meeting with this fertility doctor, it was nice to know that I have, from what it seems like, I have enough follicles there that, getting pregnant wouldn't be too much of a concern, but it's definitely important for me to remember that because I only have one ovary, I will be going into menopause earlier than other women, just because, you know, I don't have 2 ovaries releasing eggs, I only have 1. So that was something that I have to consider, was if I felt that I wouldn't want to have kids later on in life, then maybe freezing my eggs. And another thing that's very important to think about is the cost. That was something that I was not prepared for. I was told that, you know, my insurance company would not cover the procedure, even though I had cancer, which I think, first off, is super problematic. And I can go into all of the problems with our healthcare system if I wanted to. They straight up told me that it was going to be $8,000. I don't know about you, but I don't have $8,000 sitting around. So they did inform me that I could apply for grants that would take down the cost tremendously, but it would still be thousands of dollars. And that is something that I think I have to sit on, especially because the doctor said there's no right or wrong answer in my case. She thinks that if I decide to freeze my eggs, that would be a good choice. She's also said if I decide not to freeze my eggs, that she thinks I would be fine. So it's really up to me. Because the doctor had no strong opinion towards me getting my eggs frozen versus not getting my eggs frozen, I decided to hold off for now and just kind of really think about, you know, especially after I graduate, what does that look like? Okay, so the next question is pretty simple. How are you doing now? So for those of you who don't know, in late July, I actually was confirmed that I am in remission. So I have been in remission ever since then, which is amazing to me. I just feel so lucky to have the doctors that I do. They did such an amazing job, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. So I'm just super grateful for that. So I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And so someone asked, why in the world didn't they give a CA-125 test? That would have been elevated in this type of cancer. I actually did get a CA-125 test done. So for those of you who don't know, a CA-125 is the cancer antigen, where with most cancers, when an individual gets their blood drawn, their CA-125 levels will be elevated. So for me, my CA-125 level was elevated, but however, the CA-125 is not the best marker for my type of cancer. The cancer that I had was a germ cell tumor. The most helpful tumor marker is the alpha-fetoprotein level. So for me, my doctor was way more concerned about the alpha-fetoprotein level. And for me, that one was also elevated. And so because the CA-125 level was elevated, but in conjunction with the alpha-fetoprotein, that's what really helped her guess and determine what it was before she went in to do my surgery. And so that's something that's very difficult, is that ovarian cancer, you can't like detect just from a test. You know, my doctor told me that people's CA-125 levels can definitely be elevated due to anything, diet, exercise. So unfortunately, the CA-125 is not as reliable with my type of cancer. However, I do get my blood drawn every single month, you know, just to track how I'm doing to make sure that the cancer isn't coming back. But they do that with the alpha-fetoprotein. Okay, so the next question is, which university did you get your surgery done at? So I attend the University of Chicago. So when I was, you know, going through treatment, when I first had a lot of issues, I was going through student health. Once they actually had me go through and do the ultrasound, they, you know, just sent me to the hospital right across the street. So luckily, that's where I got my surgery done. I have the best oncologist in the country for this type of cancer, so praise be. So the next question is, can we see your scar from surgery? I know it's weird, but I would celebrate a scar and call it a victory, if you know what I mean. This definitely was, I don't want to say a weird question. It definitely was unexpected. However, I definitely will show you guys a picture of my scar. I'm not going to include the first pictures that I took of my scar right after I took the bandages off, because it definitely is a little creepy and you can see that my body is still kind of open. But this is my scar that's completely closed up now. And honestly, I do want to say I really loved the statement, you know, saying I would celebrate a scar and call it a victory. And that's exactly how I view my scar. After surgery and seeing my scar and getting to know my new body, I have never been more confident. It's just, I feel so resilient, which is true. Like, our bodies, they help us move through the world. And if you really think about it, every single one of us has gone through so much. And so the fact that my body was able to keep me alive despite the fact that there were cells that were attacking the rest of my insides, I think is just so cool and so amazing. It's almost like I prefer myself with the scar because it reminds me of everything that I went through. So yeah, I appreciate that question. So the next question does have to do with symptoms. Were you passing stool more often? The way that my oncologist explained it was that because my tumor was so big, it was pushing on all of my other organs. So it was pressing up against my urinary tract. So that is what was causing all of that pain there and, you know, the infections and all of that. So to her, it wasn't surprising that I was experiencing issues with my bowel movement. So just to answer it shortly, yes, I was passing stool a little bit more often. The next question I have, I think, is a very good question. Do you think this had something to do with your IUD, or is it genetic? In short, no. She does not believe that the IUD had anything to do with my cancer. And she actually, this was something that I asked her, you know, should I have my IUD removed? Should I be on an oral contraceptive, or should I not be taking anything at all? And so she actually recommended to me that I keep the IUD in, because the IUD is actually supposed to prevent someone from getting ovarian cancer. And although it didn't work for me, it's definitely a precaution for the next time. So the next question is, I also think, very important. Would you consider getting a hysterectomy to stop it altogether? And no, a hysterectomy is a procedure, for those of you who don't know, where they remove your ovaries, fallopian tubes, and your uterus. So basically what that would do is not only prevent me from having cancer develop in those organs because they are removed from my body, but it would actually send me into menopause. And early onset menopause can be very dangerous and cause a lot of health complications. So my doctor told me there may be a chance, you know, when I was under, that they would have to take all of my reproductive organs. However, she said she would do everything in her power to keep as much of the structure there. And that's exactly what she did. She left me with one ovary and fallopian tube and my uterus, so I can still have kids if I want to. And also it prevents all of those health issues that come along with early onset menopause. Okay, so the next question was, how big was your cyst and mass? My tumor was 21 centimeters. So what that means, basically, my oncologist described it as the size of a small basketball, which to me was very concerning. Of course, no one wants to hear, you know, that the tumor spans their whole entire pelvis. The fact that my oncologist was able to get the whole thing out without any breakage that may have caused the spread of the cancer throughout my body, I honestly don't know how she does it. This actually kind of leads into the next question. Where are you from? So I am actually from Maryland, Southern Maryland to be exact, if there's any Marylanders watching. So before we knew it was cancer, we were talking about potentially, could I go back to Maryland and get the surgery done there to remove my cyst? And basically the short answer was, it's cancer, so we don't really have that kind of time to find you a good surgeon down in the Maryland area. So we're gonna have to figure out something now. So since I was living in Chicago, that's where I ended up getting the surgery done, and I ended up having the best doctor do it. So I am just super grateful for the treatment that I received. Sorry guys, so I had to step out for a second, so I'm sorry that the lighting's changed. But the last question that I got was, like, just why did my oncologist decide not to give me chemo? The main reason she decided not to is because my cancer was stage 1. So what that means is She caught it at the earliest stage. It was stage 1A, so it was all contained, and they were able to cut it out without it breaking. There was no spreading at all. So because there was technically no more cancer left inside of my body, even though it was grade 3 and there is a chance that the cancer could come back, she did all of her research, and basically she came to the conclusion that if the cancer were to come back, then of course we would go ahead and do a chemotherapy regimen. But the specific medications that I would have been on for the chemo for my type of cancer is very aggressive, and there are some significant side effects. Basically, she decided, I don't want to have to put you through chemo if we don't need to. And basically the data was stating that surgery could very well be enough for me and for my case. And if the cancer does come back, then we will revisit that. So yeah, that's basically kind of why I do feel imposter syndrome sometimes. My whole cancer experience lasted about, I want to say like 3 weeks. To me, it feels like it went by so quickly, because it did. And while I was living with the cancer inside my body for at least 2 months that I know of, or at least 2 months where it was noticeable for me and, impacted my daily life. I know other people who are diagnosed with cancer often go through way worse. So it's really hard for me to sit with the fact that what I went through was traumatic in its own way. I totally understand, the people who may think that I should just get over it, that it's not that big of a deal, that I should be able to just move on, or I need to stop acting like what I went through was so bad. But you never really know how traumatic it can be to have your life flash before your eyes until you are in that position. And one of the most painful things is watching your family and friends react to that news and feeling that you have to help them through it as well. I leave you guys with these questions answered. I hope that provided some more insight and it was helpful for some other people who are going through the same thing. I just wish everybody the best, and thank you so much for all of the love and support these past few months. I honestly am shocked. I am just so incredibly proud of everybody who took the step to put their health first, and everybody who left a comment or liked my video. It's really helped me through these past few months, just knowing that my suffering has ultimately helped other people at least figure out what's going on or feel validated, which I think is the most important. That if you are in pain, you are not crazy, and you deserve to feel your best. Thank you everybody for watching, and if you have any other additional questions, of course, leave them down below. I do love filming videos. This is something that I really like to do, especially being in grad school. I need an outlet, so definitely leave some recommendations below. And if you missed my first video, describing my cancer story, I will link it up for you guys if you want to watch it, because a lot of questions that you may have probably would have been answered in that first video. But please don't hesitate to leave a comment, or if you are having your own personal struggle with cancer or something health related, please do not hesitate to message me. I would love to provide some support and just offer some love and validation for those of you that need it, and everyone deserves that. So thank you so much for watching this video. That's it. So I'll see you next time. Bye.